We've all been there before. We have all tried to be the cool girl in a relationship before. And comment down below if that has ever worked out for you. I know it never worked out for me. Let's be clear, okay? There's being cool, like a cool person, and then there's being the cool girl. That girl who has a bunch of guy friends or is just really chill with all the guys and she watches sports and she's not high maintenance. She doesn't need a lot of things to be happy and she's go with the flow. Oh, you guys, if I can impart one bit of wisdom that I learned from my 20s into you today, it's that being the cool girl never works out, not in relationships. Having low standards is not a great way to get what you want. As we know, there was the whole ice cream date debacle thing last week. I made a video about it over on Patreon. I will link that down below if you're interested in watching. But I think more than anything, this just brings up the question of standards. What are appropriate standards to have in dating, on first dates, and in relationships in general? And I think that we kind of miss the mark all the time. It's either you're on one end of the spectrum where you're expecting to get flown out and wined and dined and you want your first date to be on top of the Eiffel Tower, or you're on the other end of the spectrum where you're trying to be super chill, super cool girl who's down for whatever when secretly you're not. There's no happy medium. And I just think we need to talk about it a little bit because I think what we could all use in life today is a bit of balance, is a bit of centering. When it comes to the ice cream thing, right? Like I said, it's about standards. I don't think it's so much about that ice cream is so offensive. I think it's about standards. And while I don't necessarily agree with that interaction as a whole, I think that young woman in the interaction could have been a little bit kinder. I didn't think it was amazing on either end. However, I will commend her for having standards and sticking to those standards. Because let me tell you something. Being the cool girl who's okay with anything and everything that a guy is trying to get you to agree to, it just doesn't work out. Having low standards is not actually a way to get what you want. You think that it is, but it's not. First reason why being the cool girl never works is because you're not being honest. You're not being honest with yourself, and you're not being honest with the person that you are in a relationship with or that you are in communication with. A lot of times we act like we're the cool girl, even though we secretly aren't. We want to come off as though we're chill because we think that guys can't rise to the occasion. We don't give them a lot of credit and we're okay, well, I just need to sort of shrink myself and feel a little bit, be a little bit cooler so he doesn't get overwhelmed, so he doesn't feel pressured and all these things, and we kind of treat them like they're children instead of being honest with ourselves and with him. Tell me you haven't or you don't know a woman, who's been talking to a guy that she really likes and he's the one to say yeah, I'm not really looking for anything serious. And she's yeah, me either. Now, I'm not talking about women who actually mean this, okay? Some women actually don't want anything serious. But a lot of times the guy will be yeah, I'm not looking for anything serious. Let's just take it slow. Let's just see how it goes. Let's see where we end up. And the girl's yeah, me either. I'm not looking for anything serious either. And then we're 3 months down the road and she is in love with this person and he's well, I told you that I wasn't looking for anything serious, and it's just a mess. It's just a hot mess. You have to be honest with yourself and with the person that you're in relationship with. Otherwise, neither of you are gonna, actually, he might get what he wants, but you are not going to get what you want. You have to be honest about the fact that you want a relationship. There's nothing wrong with wanting a relationship. And if you interact with someone who that is not their end game is not to have a relationship, then fine, that's great. Have a nice life. See you in another dimension. It'll be fine. But but being sort of disingenuous with yourself and with them and saying that you're okay, being whatever, not having any labels or whatever, when secretly you do want that and you know deep down that you want it secretly, it just doesn't work out. I think it's just a much better course of action to just be honest with that person, just be honest with yourself. And again, if they're okay, well, that's not what I want, then at least you know that that's not the person for you. Because don't you want to be with someone who also wants what you want? You don't want to have to convince anyone to be with you. That's not fun. I've been there. I think many of us have been there, trying to convince someone that we're good enough to be with. And maybe if I just and chill, and maybe if I just don't expect too much and I don't ask too much, then everything will be fine and he'll finally see the light and we'll live happily ever after. No, You don't want to have to convince someone that you are worth being in a relationship with. You just have to find someone that wants to be in a relationship with you. Honestly, being a cool girl never works out either, because a lot of times you end up just being a doormat. Like, you end up just saying yes to things that you don't even really want to do and kind of getting walked all over because you're afraid that any little misstep is going to cause them to run away. It's going to cause them to like disappear from your life. You're worth so much more than being anybody's doormat, you know? Like, you're worth so much more than saying yes to things and just being agreeable because you're afraid that like this person isn't gonna wanna be with you anymore. If you start to not agree with like the way that they wanna do things and they end up waltzing out of your life, then like say goodbye, say sayonara, and watch them, you know, twirl out the door. It's better than allowing someone to just walk all over you. It's the worst feeling, and I'm saying this from experience. It is the worst feeling in the world when you are just trying to like tiptoe around someone and be so agreeable and be so nice and sweet and perfect. And in the end, like, that is not what's going to make someone pick you. Someone is going to pick you because they like being around you and because they like you as a person and they have feelings for you and they're developing feelings for you, not because you're agreeing to do everything that they want to do the way that they want to do it. Another reason why being the cool girl never works is because you don't get to do the things that you want to do. A lot of times you end up just doing whatever they want, however they want to do it, whenever they want to do it, because again, you're afraid to say like, actually, I would like to do this. You try to be the cool girl, you're at this other person's mercy. If they think that a date is hanging out in their parents' backyard for hours on end and like never taking you out to dinner or never taking you, you know, to see a movie or anything like that, like you're kind of at their mercy because you're just trying to be cool and you're trying to be like, chill. It is okay. It is 100% okay to have standards. It's okay to say like, actually, that's not what I consider a date. I don't consider hanging out at your parents' house a date. I don't consider walking around with ice cream a date. It is okay to have standards. And actually, I think that like, men can handle it. I think they can handle our standards, but I think they can handle women saying like, here are my expectations. Like, if you want to hang out with me, if you want to, you know, spend time with me, if you want to date me, here are the things that like I would like to see in this relationship. Let's talk about it and let's see like what you think is appropriate for our relationship and see if we can, you know, see where we're both at so that we can like get to a place where we're both content and we're both happy in this relationship. And I think that sometimes we just assume that like men are so incompetent that like they wouldn't be able to figure certain things out. They're not incompetent, they're not dumb. It's not so much a if he wanted to, he would sort of energy, but it is a, we can both exist as adults in this situation. We can both exist as adults and I can tell you like, hey, these are my expectations, this is what I want, and you can say yay or nay, and then we can go our separate ways peacefully, or we can try this out. Trying to be the cool girl also, like, it just leaves you feeling very emotionally depleted. Like it's exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting. Because when you're so invested in someone and you're like trying to pull at anything to get them to feel the same way about you, but at the same time, you're like kind of like calculatedly not trying to appear like you care that much, even though you do. Like, the mental gymnastics that we put ourselves through is insane. It can be emotionally exhausting, and like that is not awesome for your femininity. That is not awesome for that feminine energy that we talk about on this channel and that other women talk about. When you're in that state of lack, when you're in that state of just not being authentic to what you want, all of those things start to dampen and start to negatively affect that femininity that you naturally possess. How many times haven't so many of us come out of relationships or situationships and we just feel completely beat down because we tried so hard to be agreeable. We tried so hard to be like the chill girl who he would want to hang out with because she doesn't expect too much, and it still didn't work out. And when you come out of that, it just negatively affects your feminine energy so much. Unless you actually are that chill and that cool of a girl, let's really practice being authentic and being honest with ourselves when it comes to what we're expecting and what we want out of a relationship. I do also think, like I said in the beginning, that there does need to be balance. I tend to think that some of the expectations that I see on social media, that I see women perpetuating, and the types of dates that they're expecting, sometimes I'm like, I don't know where you guys live. Like, maybe you live in another country where like that's standard practice, but like I've never known, you know, anyone to be like flown out to Italy on a first date. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying, like, let's have some balance here, right? Like, would that be nice? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. I mean, not for me because I hate flying. But for some of you, would that be nice? Yeah, that would be great. But at the same time, like, maybe have an idea of what is the most you're willing to accept and what is the least that you're willing to accept. This to me is an appropriate amount to accept on a first date, and this to me is an inappropriate amount for them to suggest, right? Like, just have some ideas, some boundaries for what it is that would work for you. For some women, an ice cream date is fine. For some women, and as I said on Patreon, I have been asked out on a dessert date. It also happened to be that situationship where I was trying to be the cool girl. For you, what is the least you're willing to accept and what is the most you're willing to accept? That way you just have a good idea, a standard idea of like what you want your dating experience to look like. I don't know anyone who was the cool girl and it worked out for them. No one. Actually, I only know people who it didn't work out for. There's so many of us who just are not honest with ourselves. We're not honest, you know, with the people that we're in relationship with because we are afraid that they're going to leave. And living in that scarcity, it only leads to more scarcity. I can promise you that. You're better off having your standards, setting your expectations, and waiting for the person who is willing to meet those standards and meet those expectations. That's my rant on why being the cool girl just doesn't work out, and it's completely okay to have standards. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and please leave a comment down below. Have you ever tried to be the cool girl, and how did that go for you? Did it work? I wanna know. If it did work for some of you, please let me know. I'm curious. Leave a comment down below sharing your experience, because this is a community of women who are trying to help each other, who are trying to level up, and who are trying to get in touch with our femininity. So help from other women, talking to other women is very, very helpful in that. If you want more content, head to my Patreon. I've been posting a lot over there lately. Love that little community. I'll leave the link down below. Head to my blog, read some posts if you're interested, and you can also find me on Instagram at _thefemininefancy_. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.